Willis, I'm afraid to say that the rumors were true. I am indeed dripping just for this game. It is that good.
Before I played any of the DMC games, there were a couple of things that I understood about the series. The first one was a good beginning, although it can be outshined by the later entries in the series. 2 is the bad one. DMC Devil May Cry has the worst title I've ever heard. DMC4 The Stair, and that DMC5, but more so DMC3 Dante's Awakening, were considered to be the pinnacle of the series by far. I played DMC5 last year, and when I played it I thought, that's it, the series has peaked, and I've only played one of them, how much better can the games get? But I always see people saying that DMC3 was that game, it was simply that good, it had that dog in it, and I was always left with the curiosity. Until now. After DMC2, I'm fairly confident that my expectations could not go any lower than the core of the planet, so with everything to gain and nothing to lose, I boot up DMC Devil May Cry 3, Dante's Awakening, and what did I think? Jackpot. Well, this game is fucking incredible. Okay, first off, I need to mention the immediate jump in quality in many different aspects of the game, but the main one that actually surprised me was the development of the story in the game. One of my biggest issues with DMC 1 and DMC 2 is that it felt like they really wanted me to care for the story, but they never gave the story enough time to actually do anything whatsoever. While it felt like DMC 1 wanted me to care and feel anything when Trish betrays Dante, I instead felt nothing because I didn't feel like there was enough time for the player to care for the character, and as a result the plot fell flat on its fucking face. DMC2 not only had the same faults of the first game, but also featured characters with the opposite of what I would deem as personality, so I didn't care to see what happened in the cutscene here because Dante was a piece of cardboard that had a single trait that they try to pass off as a endearing personality. You start Devil May Cry 3 and meet the city clown 3 seconds in and his name is Dante.
That is some heavy whiplash.
Now see, this is the Dante that I know and love from DMC5. The personality of this man is through the roof. He's just a naturally cool guy in this game. They cracked the jackass trait of his character to the limit, and it's the most entertaining thing in the world and makes every single cutscene a blast to watch, because you just want to see what new thing this man-child does next. Dante is generally a more goofy character, mostly on his own lane for most of the game, as his reason for even participating in the plot for half the game is petty brother rivalry. In DMC3, the story is that Virgil, who is Dante's brother, erects a tower in the middle of the city which is causing absolute destruction, and the objective of the tower is to open the gate between the human world and the demon world, and I guess Virgil wants to do that for ultimate power or something like that. I don't think they fully explained that, but that's what made the most sense to me. Dante, on the meanwhile, is eating pizza and trying to figure out the name for his recently opened devil hunting service, but before he can come up with the name, the demons make a Swiss cheese out of this man, but nope! Okay, I actually love these character moments for Dante. It really goes to show just how much of a laid-back guy he is, and also show the immaturity of his personality. After he gets the invitation to the tower, Dante decides to go, but because he wants to beat Virgil's ass, not because he actually wants to solve the issue of, you know, him trying to open the gates of hell. During the ride, he meets this lady, which he just calls Lady because she never tells him her name. Anyways, she hates demons, hates her dad for killing her mom to get demon powers and trying to do bad shit in general, and she also hates Dante for most of the game. Now see, Dante doesn't really get why she's going through all these troubles, especially considering that she's a human and can very easily die thanks to the demons inside the tower. On the other hand, when he does meet Virgil and fight him, it's again because of petty brother rivalry, and subsequently he gets his ass handed to him in one of the coolest cinematics in the game, and the next time he fights him, it's basically to get payback for the first round. As I mentioned, the story is remarkably not that complicated, but what makes it work is that it uses its cards very well and makes the most with what little they actually have to offer, and they manage to tell a story that, no, it's not complicated, but you're equally invested in it because the characters are simply that well developed. After the first interactions with Virgil and Lady, Dante goes through some substantial growth. He starts understanding and relating to Lady and her family conflict, as this is also technically his family conflict, not only because of Virgil, but because his father was a legendary hero that closed off hell from Earth. So he's also technically fixing so he's also technically fixing his own father's mess. At the end of the game when you fight Virgil, Dante isn't fighting for himself, but for the entire world, and what's correct. He understands that Virgil is too dangerous and his need for power is gonna lead him to do some very dangerous stuff. He needs to be put down. The story simply develops his characters well, and because of that, I find it way more enjoyable than anything the last two games offered.
Speaking of better than 2 and 1, let's talk about the music of the game because, oh my god, it's just, the music in this game just makes me want to, woo, ah shit!
I don't know what they put in the water of the people making the music, but my god, it's just such a well-made soundtrack. It perfectly fits the style of Devil May Cry, and more than that, the silly fun of the series overall. Taste the Blood is a diss track, and who it's dissing depends on whether you're ass at the game or goated with the sauce. The second battle theme is also extremely catchy, and I mean, Devils Never Cry. I mean, it's one of the best pieces of music ever made in the history of Capcom and video games in general, and works as a very good way of knowing Dante's character. The graphics have also... Whew, man, look at that, they look so good. While I didn't find the action of the last two games and their cutscenes to be necessarily bad, I did think it could definitely be better. Now in DMC3, a lot of the cutscenes are just so much more, in every way, more dramatic, funnier, more action-packed and better choreographed. Everything about it screams SS stylish. I just can't stress how fun Dante is. He's a goofy, over-the-top character that does a smash presentation on every new weapon he gets. He's the best. The combat in this game is generally the best combat I've seen so far, and it's easily up there alongside the combat of Devil May Cry 5. It's simply that fun. You get a lot of weapons in this game, and they are all extremely fun to use, although I'll admit, I'm not the biggest fan of the guitar. I thought it would have been cooler than what it ended up being. It just didn't feel as fun as the rest of them. But that's just me. The sword returns and the fist do as well, and they're both equally as fun as they were in DMC1. The fist is a dumb unga boonga weapon, and the sword is still an extremely versatile weapon that you will get the most use out of in the game. The two new weapons are also not that far off. The nunchucks feel different, no doubt, but it is still equally as fun as the rest of the weapons, and Agni and Rudra are probably my favorite weapons in the entire game. They are a dual sword that can combine and do so much wild stuff. The entire game just plays well. Dante constantly grows in strength and gets new abilities not only through the weapons but also through style switching, which is a new mechanic that was introduced in DMC3. You have 4 different styles that you can switch through, and they all have their unique uses. Trickster gives you a dodge that is especially useful in bosses and allows you to be better positioned in battle, and it's overall more useful than the dodge roll already available. Gunslinger gives you more strength to the guns, but Swordmaster gives you new attacks with every weapon, and I barely use Scarmaster because of me not being very good at the game. The game also returns to a DMC1 way of level design in which you explore one place and all the parts of the place are interconnected, which just allows the player to truly see the effect of the narrative in certain ways. The tower changes as the game goes on, and you can feel the impact of the narrative even more now compared to before. The place is also just very well designed and very fun to explore. The one aspect that I will say I wasn't the biggest fan of was the enemies. Some of them were fun to fight, but some of them not so much. Some of those enemies simply felt like a chore. There were too many that felt gimmicky, and it felt like some were simply just like too tanky and annoying for the sake of it. But that's really my only complaint, to be honest. To answer the question posed at the beginning of the video, yes, I do believe that DMC3 is that good. Most of the time, the game is an action-packed game with masterful music and very well done graphics with an engaging story that kept me wanting to know simply what came next. It's totally recommended.
And just like we've done the last couple of times, after 3 comes Devil May Cry 4. We are getting much closer to DMC5, honestly. That's the one that I'm most excited to talk about. But I just have to be a bit more patient until then. But hey, that's all you're gonna hear from me. I'm just a random stranger you met on the internet. But hey, just call me Suda.